Hey guys, it's IP here, and today I'm going to be doing my guide for the things they don't tell you about EVE Online. The things that you need to know, or you suppose you don't need to know, but would be very helpful and have been very helpful to me as a new player, but aren't really explained very well in a lot of tutorials and things like that. So today I've got 13 things, 13, yeah, unlucky number, but 13 things that I didn't really get any sort of advice on. Well, I got advice on some of them, but I couldn't find them really in any major tutorials, so okay. So here we go with that, and hopefully this can be helpful to you. For the first thing we're going to cover, these are in no particular order, I'm going to be covering how to make some quick money when you start off the game. This is basically some of the easiest stuff to do, and actually it's not a ton of money once you start getting into the game, but it's a fair amount of money for a new player. So the first one is mining for some common ores in Highsec. The first things you'll need to do this is a venture. This is a ship that doesn't have a whole lot of requirements. It has mining frigate level 1 and spaceship command level 1. This is a total of like I think it's less than an hour of skill training. But basically, this is an easy way to make money. And I'm going to show you how exactly. When you're out in space, anywhere in Highsec, or at least in a system that has asteroid fields, first of all, you're just going to need to make sure this is fitted with 2 mining tools. I have miner 2s. These are a little bit further on, not a ton, but there's a cheap one called a miner 1 that you can get for extremely not expensive at all, that you can easily afford after doing some tutorial missions. So basically, you can right-click anywhere in space, go to asteroid belts, and select one. Doesn't really matter which one. And then hit warp to 0, and you'll be on your way to an asteroid field where you'll be making a little bit of money to start off and start padding your bank account. Okay, so once you're here at the asteroid field, you're going to need to find an asteroid with some decent stuff in it. My favorite has to be Omber, which you'll see right here. Basically what I did here was, this is the overview. I created a tab, I hit add tab, then I typed in a label. So for this, in this case, it was a mining tab. Blah. I'll just use that as my test to show you. I created a tab, then I do load defaults a tab and mining. And bang. Look at that. You got all the mineable objects in the system, or in the asteroid tab, or this asteroid field. So basically, my favorite, omber. This is because it when you fill up your cargo hold, you can actually get a fair amount of money for this when you sell it, and it sells very quickly and easily. So basically, find it. All of these, none of them are particularly like I mean, they're all cheap in the grand scheme of things, but none of them are particularly bad choices. I used to do Veldspar, because those you can find in 1.0 systems, and you can mine those very easily and not dangerously at all. But my particular favorite being Omber, because it's like, for Highsec, it's one of the more profitable ores. So lock on to the asteroid, as you know, or as you were explained in one of the actual in-game tutorials, and then start your miners and fill up your cargo hold. And I will be back in a second just to show you how much you can make off of a full venture cargo hold of Omber. I think that's how you say it, Omber. Okay, now that we have a 100% full, well, 99.9% full cargo hold, first of all, I like to point out the Venture has an ore hold, which is 5,000 cubic meters, so that's why you want to be using the Venture. The estimated payout with a full ore hold of Omber is 645,000 ISK, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but in new player terms, it's actually like a fuck ton of money. And I know this because when I started making that sort of, when I realized I could make that sort of money from just sitting in a mine or an asteroid field, I was pretty fucking like really happy considering a few mining trips, and you could easily pay for like insurance or a newer ship depending on what tier. So here we're gonna go and take this omber and slap it into our item hanger so we can sell it, and without reprocessing it, without doing anything to it, I can sell it for 644,000 ISK. So that's just barely under what it had estimated, which is fucking amazing. Usually the estimated price is a bit higher than what you actually get, but right now, at least at the time, Omber is selling for practically exactly what it estimates, which is fantastic. So basically, the idea is easy money by mining common ore, and this is easy money for new players considering early on missions don't pay all that well, and if you're trying to get a new ship or whatever, at least a destroyer or even I guess a cruiser, this is a quick way to make money if you don't want to be doing missions. So for number 2 on my list, for those of you who might be wondering, either you're sick of going down here and when you're in combat clicking all of the different weapons and to, you know, activate them and you hit them on a target, or you're stuck or sick of hitting like a bunch of the F keys to trigger them. This is a really simple one. For ships that have multiple weapons, there's a simple little button called Group All Weapons that you can press. I didn't know this for the longest time, but if you press that, boom, it suddenly becomes one button, and F1 activates all of your weapons, which is fantastic. So, yeah, quickie little there, but I didn't actually get this recommended to me for the longest time, and only until I was watching some guy do a PvP video did I actually realize that you could do this. So, yeah. Hit this button to group weapons. You can also right-click them and set certain groups so you can group different weapons. So, yeah, there's a lot of grouping options available, but basically, if you just want to be able to hit one thing to activate all your weapons on one target, just group all of your weapons. For number 3 on my list, this is going to be a little quick thing on how to get higher level missions and thus higher paying missions. So when you start off, you'll have access to the majority of level 1 missions. Ones I've been pursuing have been security missions, just because in my opinion they're the most fun and just the most interesting to do. So you'll start off with level 1 security. As you can see here, I have a level 1 security mission just chilling here. But at the same time, you'll see I have level 3 security. You'll be wondering, whoa, when I go to places and it says that they're unavailable to me, sort of like this one is here, but this is a storyline mission, which is a different story. Haha, get it. But basically, they'll be unavailable to you for a while, and you kind of wonder, like, hey, these level 1 missions pay out shitty money. How do I get the better ones? Well, it's very kind of basic. When you are doing missions, it's usually for a faction. This is how it's been explained to me. It's usually faction specific, so as you gain standings with an agent, you also gain standings with a faction or like a corp or something like that, depending on what you want to call it. And as your standings get higher with that corp or faction or group or whatever the fuck you want to call it, you'll start unlocking the higher level missions. The higher level missions, it does take some time, I'll give you that. You have to do a bunch of missions, get your standings up pretty high before you start getting level 2, and I only recently started unlocking level 3, and I think I actually do have access to some level 4 stuff, which is kind of weird, because I don't think I should. Nah, never mind, I don't. So at the moment, my standings are not high enough with road and shipyards. That's the missions I've been actually getting. Alright, the people I've been raising my standings with has been road and shipyards, and at the moment I only have up to level 3. So as you can see, if I go down to level 1, I've actually got 177 pages of level 1, because level 1 is what you got by default. As you go to level 2, you'll see that I have level 2 things from other people too. So as you raise your standings with different like groups or whatever, it actually does unlock stuff for different people, but at least from what I know, you're more likely to get stuff from the same sort of like group or places. Like this station I'm at is called Road and Shipyards, and as you can see, the higher level missions, the only ones I have available are from Road and Shipyards. Not sure if that'll change, but from what I figured, you just have to basically just keep on keeping on, keep doing those missions, and eventually you'll start getting higher level ones. I'm not exactly sure if there's an exact number as to like how high you have to have standings or how many missions you have to do, but from what I know, it doesn't take forever. I'll give you that. It takes a little bit, but eventually you will get those missions. And yes, the payout does increase, but so does the difficulty level, so keep that in mind. For number 4 on my list, I'm going to be talking about multi-targeting. Basically what I mean by multi-targeting is locking multiple targets into your ship, or like locking on using your ship. So basically this will allow you to, instead of every time you kill something, you switch targets, or like you go and have to wait for your lock on, because depending on your ship, it can sometimes take a long time to lock onto targets. So basically, things you'll need for this are a ship that allows multi-targeting, which, as far as I know, are most of them. You can do like 2 at least. Then you'll also want to train a skill called target management. I have mine at level 3, so I can lock a bunch of targets at once. I believe my current is 4 targets with my ship, and the level that I have target management at. But this basically, every time you train it up a level, allows you to add an extra target. So it's a good thing to have trained up. I'm gonna go demonstrate this for you now, so see you in a sec. So basically here we are in our little mission area to demonstrate doing this. Basically what you have to do is go on to each of the targets you want to lock onto. Usually I just max out however many I can have locked at once, just so I can easily switch between targets once the time comes. So lock on to, I would suggest, the 4 closest targets to you. I just use the hotkey, or you could right click and hit lock on, which isn't showing because yeah, it would be unlock target, but that would normally say lock on. So lock on to your target and open fire. This is also sort of demonstrating the fact that you can use your just the 1 key to activate all your weapons, which is pretty cool. And once you have all of your targets locked, this basically means that when you kill something, you can then very simply switch the next target without having to wait for your guns to lock on, which is one of the actually most useful things in this game. And it would be nice if my drones would start killing things. So here, once I kill this ship, I will be able to demonstrate how I can quickly switch targets. Boom, ship down. Wait for my guns to recharge, or like reset. And then I can immediately switch targets without having to wait for that pesky little like lock-on thingy. Isn't that wonderful? So fucking amazing. Okay. On to the next thing. Little side tip that I just remembered in here. When you're traveling through the world of Eve, or I suppose the universe or galaxy, you'll be tempted to, once you set a destination, it'll set a route, and if you hit this little A down here, it'll kick in your autopilot. The downside to this is if you're traveling in a low-sec area, or your route takes you through low-sec, or really anywhere that's dangerous for that matter, it's quite possible that when you, since the autopilot does not warp you to 0 when you're going through jump gates or stargates, you could get gate camped because you don't jump immediately. What autopilot does is when you are going to a warp gate, not fucking PlanetSide, guys. When you go to a stargate, it warps you basically a decent distance off of the stargate, and then your ship has to approach it before jumping, which is usually fine if you're traveling through Highsec, or you know for a fact you're not going to get shot at and you just want to go AFK or whatever. But what you basically want to do if you're in a dangerous area and you want to be able to get as close to the jump gate as possible and then jump immediately, select the stargate, right click it and hit warp to 0. Then once you're in warp, you can right click it and hit jump, and your ship will automatically jump when it gets there. This basically prevents it. Gate camps, like, it doesn't 100% prevent it, because if they can kill you fast enough before you jump, it is still possible to get killed. But it greatly decreases the chances, because usually as soon as you come out of warp, boom, you jump. As opposed to having to wait it, like, I think 2 or so minutes for your ship to approach, depending on how fast your ship is, that is. You don't have to wait, and you are less likely to get killed. So yeah, that's a little side note. This one takes a little bit more explaining. So this is number 5. Bigger ships aren't always better. This is explained to a certain extent when people explain how weapons have tracking speeds, but I'm going to go in a little bit more detail. Basically, you might look at ISIS. It's such an unfortunate name. And you're like, hell, I want a battleship or battle cruiser, because fuck, they're big. I mean, look how big this bitch is. It's 500 meters long. Oh my god. Which is fucking awesome, because I love big ships. But there are downsides. For starters, certain missions, like this level 1 security mission I have here, won't even let you into them, because if you have a ship that's too high or too like powerful or whatever, it won't even let you access it, because it has certain limits. The acceleration gate has limits set to it, so it won't actually let you enter the mission area with a bigger ship, and thus you cannot complete the mission with that ship, which would be unfortunate if it wasn't for this other thing. Every ship you have has, well, ship sort of helps or determines this as well, but it's mostly on the gun, I should say. When you're mounting guns that have like bigger guns, like this big ass gun, it's 15 meters long, boom, you're gonna kill some stuff with it, right guys? It looks sick. But what you really need to be looking at is this, the tracking speed / accuracy. You might, this whole setup, I mean, the guns might do 127.8 DPS, which is a lot, sort of, not really, but it's a bunch. And you could usually one-shot a lot of the lower level things. But the question is, can you hit them? Here, this stat right here, tracking speed, accuracy. Basically, if you have too big of a ship and too big of a guns and you're shooting at small ships, you're not going to be able to fucking hit them, because they move faster than your guns can track. And if you can't hit them, then you can't kill them, thus you can't complete the mission. So basically, bigger is not always better. The things that big ships are used for are for fighting other big ships. So in this case, level 3 security missions, you're fighting destroyers and I think occasionally some cruisers, which are big enough that your tracking speed, despite it not being as good as a smaller ship, you can actually hit them, and since they have more health, you do more DPS and therefore can kill them. So bigger, not always better. Bigger equals cooler, I'll give you that. Big ships can be really fucking cool, because there are a lot of big ships in this game. But in case of missions and fighting smaller ships in PvP, not always the best idea. You want to go with a smaller ship that might have a better tracking speed and thus a better chance of hitting your target. Number 6 on my list requires a little bit of explanation as well. Be careful about corps or corporations. You might be interested right when you start the game, be like, hell, I want to go join a corp. That's going to be cool because I'm going to have people to play with and it's going to be fun. We're going to go do awesome shit and it's going to be cool, which was kind of my mindset when I first started playing Eve. So I just went and joined a corp that said anyone can join. It'll be fun, guys. And that was one of my mistakes that cost me millions of ISK, which isn't a ton, but for a new player is a ton of money. So it cost me ships and millions of ISK. Basically what happened was I joined a corp that was war decked and pretty much always war decked, and for those of you who don't know, war decked means war declare, which means that another corp or alliance has declared war on your corp or alliance. This means that you're not safe anywhere. If you're even in Highsec, where Concord is constantly there, if you're war decked, then anyone from the opposing corporation or alliance can just kill you on sight with no reason, and Concord will not come to your defense. This caused me to die quite a few times and almost made me quit playing the game. I didn't know this at the time, and I was kind of confused. I'm thinking like, Highsec, well, there's Concord. I'll be okay because no one can kill me because I'm in Highsec. Nope, they can kill you anyways. If you're war decked, they can just come in. They tend to camp stargates around your like corp's headquarters and stuff. At least that's what they were doing when I was in a corp, and it ended up, as I said, costing me a bunch of money, a few ships, and a whole lot of frustration. What you want to do, if you really have to join a corp right away, I would say join an NPC corp. Right now I'm in the Scope, which is an NPC corp. As far as I know, they never get war decked. Nothing ever happens. People can't just kill you in Highsec for no reason. Well, they can, but if they do, Concord will come to your aid. And the Scope, basically the reason I'm in this is just so I have a chat to look through, and if I have questions, I can just ask questions, which is really nice. But at the same time, you don't have that present threat of being KOS'd or camp killed or whatever the fuck you want to call it in Highsec. But at the same time, you're sort of part of something. The downside to this is, of course, you're not going to really be doing any sort of massive fleet battles or joining any wars or doing anything like the big PvP stuff that you would be doing if you're in a PvP corp. But for new players, I would say this is a very good option because you can go and ask questions if you have any, and at the same time, you sort of feel like you're part of something because you kind of are. The next one on my list, number 7, is always buy insurance. This is kind of explained to you in a tutorial, and you might be thinking, oh, I don't need insurance, it's just extra cost. Why the hell would I want that? Well, basically, this actually is another story about how I lost a ship and millions of ISK. It was about 11 million ISK for a thorax, but that's a lot to me when I first started playing. So basically what insurance does is if you get killed or whatever, then, or your ship gets destroyed, since your ship, you don't just respawn in your ship. Like, your ship doesn't just go boop and it's back, unlike most games. Basically what happens is you die. If they pod you, you get transported to your home station. If you don't, you just go and fly away, but you still don't have your ship. It doesn't just come back. What happens is if you buy insurance, depending on the level of insurance, I would suggest going with Platinum if you can afford it, because really all these other ones are kinda not that great and don't really serve their purpose all that well. Basically, I always buy Platinum insurance. What it does is if you have insurance and your ship gets destroyed, they'll give you a bunch of money, depending on, like, for Platinum, for this Algos, the ship is not very expensive. It's just over $1 million. If you have insurance, it'll, when your ship gets destroyed, the estimated payout value, depending on which level you do. So here, I spend 389,000 ISK, which is not a lot compared to what it pays out as, and it gives you, when your ship gets destroyed, you get almost 1.3 million ISK deposited into your account, which basically allows you, it usually doesn't cover the cost of the stuff you have fitted to the ship, but it almost completely heals the wound of actually losing the ship, so you can go and immediately buy a new ship to replace it. Granted, you might have to save up for the stuff you had fitted to it again, but it completely heals the wound rather than just being out a million or so ISK right off the bat and never getting that ISK back. You have to then go and save up the money again, and that's not a fun time. Because yes, that happened to me when I lost an 11 million ISK ship, and I was like, bullocks, why did I not buy insurance? What was I thinking? But yeah, basically, if you can afford it, buy insurance. If you can't afford it, don't buy the ship. Wait until you can afford the ship and the insurance cost. You could look up insurance costs, they change, but if you say buy a ship and you realize you can't afford the insurance, don't take the ship out of the station yet. Wait until you can afford the insurance. So that way, if you go out there and someone does decide to just randomly kill you, or perhaps you underestimate the AI in a PvE mission and your ship gets destroyed unexpectedly, at least you'll have some money to fall back on. Depending on the ship you have or whatever, it'll cost more. It's usually like you'll spend a decent amount of money on the insurance, but then you'll get a crap ton in comparison in the actual insurance cover. It'll usually cover the majority, like 90% of the actual cost of the ship. So an example, as I just showed you, the prices of this ship, Platinum Insurance, 389,000 ISK for a 1.3 million payout. But as you go up, obviously it gets more expensive. So for this ship, which is worth like 55 million, I think I got it for, I spend 15 million in the cost of the Platinum Insurance, and then I get a 50 million payout, which basically covers the actual cost of the ship. And I tend to insure just all of my ships, even if it's something that's not worth a lot, just because, I mean, hey, if you can save the money like that you would normally be spending on it, like this one, this ship is not expensive, it's like 400,000 ISK. It's 105,000 ISK purchase, and then a 350,000 ISK payout. I mean, even if 400,000 ISK is nothing to you, it's still better to just not lose the money if you can, and in the long run, it'll help you. So basically, moral of the story is buy insurance, because you never know when it'll become important to you, even if you think it will never be useful. It will be useful, I promise. Number 8 on my list has to do with drones, which I'm currently using in combat. Drones are your friend, guys. If you have a ship that has drone bonuses, use it. For example, right now, my drones, I have hammerhead ones on this, which are medium drones. You can get light drones very easily, and despite the fact that they don't do as much damage, they're still very, very helpful. So right now, I have to, if you have a target selected, sometimes they will auto-engage, sometimes they just sit idle like this. But I have a target selected, he's within, well, he's not within range, so I'm actually approaching him right now. He has to be within 20 kilometers for this ship to have the range to command my drones to attack him. So let's try getting a little bit closer. Boom, he's within range, and we can hit engage. Oh, he's not quite in range. Come on. Come on. Come on. There we go, he's within range. So we hit right click on this tab to select all of our drones and hit engage target. They are now going to engage this target, and you can see they are going to kick his ass pretty good, because they're some nice drones, and because they are my friend, and drones being your friend are a very good thing because they can do a lot of DPS, well, depending on what kind of drones you're using. So you can see them, and boom, they took care of him in no time at all. Number 9 on my list is the Venture isn't useless. Sure, as I kind of overestimated the price of it when I checked last. It was like, this is a little bit a while ago, as you can see, it's basically 400,000 ISK, but you can buy it right now for less than that, at about 210,000 ISK. Despite the fact that you basically need no skills to pilot it. I mean, 2 things that take like not really all that much, like less than an hour to train altogether. Despite the fact that it has like no requirements whatsoever, and it costs next to nothing, it's actually a very useful ship. First of all, as you can see here, the ore hold is 5,000 cubic meters, despite the fact that it only has a 40 cubic meter cargo hold. It can fly drones for defense. This is 2 Warrior 1 drones. I can only fit 1 medium-sized drone, so I would suggest staying with smaller drones, but that's up to you. The ore hold, boom, oh my gosh, it's one of the few ships with an ore hold, and it has 5,000 cubic meters. That's a lot. That's a lot of ore that you can hold in the ore hold, haha. But if you fit this thing right, it can be a beast. So basically, as I mentioned a second ago, give it some combat drones, some low-level ones, so when you're flying around in an asteroid field mining, if some little AI jump in and try to fuck your shit up, first off, I like to slap on some shield induction, which basically extends your shield a little bit. Not a lot, but enough that you can take a few hits without really any problems. Slap those on there. Slap an afterburner on there. It doesn't really matter which one, albeit you're going to want one that's like that doesn't use a ton of your capacitor. Like right now with a 1MN afterburner 2, I have it with all these other modules. I can actually run them completely indefinitely because it's a stable thing. So with this afterburner and with this overdrive injector system 2, I can actually reach just under 1K a second, so 990 meters per second. And what this allows you to do is you're going so fast that they can't hit you. It's called speed tanking. It's not a perfect speed tank, because if, say, a player comes in with some decent tracking rate speed weapons, they can still shoot you. But the fact is, AI, most of them anyways, will not be able to hit you unless you get webified. But as I've never been webified by something that just jumped into an asteroid field, and the setup has always given, like, what you can do is have your drones out killing the AI while you're just speed tanking around as they try to shoot you, and they can't shoot you. Eventually your drones kill them, and then you can get back to mining without having to even really lose or leave the asteroid field. You don't even have to stop mining. You could just be orbiting whatever you're mining really, really fast, and they can't hit you, or if they hit you, it just grazes you and does like next to no damage. So basically what I'm saying is, despite the fact that the stats on this thing kinda suck, it's fast, so you can speed tank. It has a massive ore hold, so you can actually sit around and collect a bunch of ore for a while, and it's really cheap. You'll end up making a hell of a lot more money from the ship than you actually spent on it. Like, a lot more. If you mine the right stuff and do it correctly, you can kick some serious ass. You can kick... Fuck. You can kick some serious isk. Get it? Haha, I'm funny. But, yeah. So the venture is not useless. Number 10. Don't waste money on repairing your ship. And I'll explain why in a second. First of all, repairing things, there are certain things it is okay to repair. When you go into a station and it has repairs available, there will be an icon over here, woo, over here, that has a little wrench and screwdriver, and it's the repair shop where you can open it and you can instantly, for a cost, repair everything in your inventory that took damage. The one thing I would say this is okay to do on is drones, because drones don't just magically heal. Unfortunately, that would be cool, but they don't. Their shields regenerate, but not their hull, and yeah. So basically, it's okay to repair drones, and they're pretty cheap to repair. What I say don't repair is your ship, because if you have a decent ship, like not this one, it'll actually cost you a lot depending on how much damage you actually took, which is unfortunate because sometimes you don't want to sit around waiting for your ship to repair. But it's worth it, because you can sometimes spend millions of ISK repairing your ship, whereas you could just wait a minute or two and use something like a medium armor repair, which I use on this one. You can fit them on pretty much any ship, and depending on the size, I mean, you might have to do a smaller one if it's a smaller ship, or a bigger one if it's a bigger ship, or else it will take for fucking ever. But for this one, I have a medium armor repairer 1, and I can wait a couple minutes and for free have my ship completely repaired. This does not count, as far as I know, for your this counts for your not your shield, your armor, but I don't think this repairs structure. So usually I don't let my armor get to 0. I always warp away before my structure takes damage. The only thing you should repair in station is your structure, because your structure cannot be repaired by an armor repair, hence the name, armor repair. So slap these on. They're cost effective. They don't really cost a ton of money to buy them, and they don't, I mean, they do use some capacitor, but they're not like a ton, and obviously you can let your capacitor recharge. So save yourself the money, buy an armor repair today. Number 11. Shields are not everything. Shields might be the only thing that regen without a like an armor repair, as I have here, but that does not mean that your armor is completely useless. As you can see on this current setup I have, I am actually using my armor as a tank. I'm armor tanking with these hardeners. They harden it to different types of damage, basically. And right now I'm using those combined with, I have to turn them off because my capacitor is actually almost empty, but those combined with the armor repairer basically turn my armor into a second wave of shields. And as you can see, the ship has 5400 armor. That might not be a ton in the grand scheme of things, but for a decent like new player like me, that's actually a lot of armor, and it's a lot of extra health. If you keep warping out every time your ship is about to drop its shields because you're afraid of the armor dropping, well, you're going to be a little less successful. So So basically, the moral of the story is allow yourself to drop your shields and use your armor, because you can just regen it, assuming you put on a little armor repair. And if you absolutely have to, then you can repair it at the majority of stations. Not every station, but most of them. Number 12, specialize in a type of mission. Basically, there are lots of different types of missions. As you can see here, there are 3 different types of missions here actually in this station. There are security missions, there are distribution missions, there are mining missions. Those are the available ones here. There are actually more than that, but I'm going to use these as the example. As you can see, I have level 3 security missions available, but there are no other types of missions available. Granted, there aren't any other agents that sell or do higher level missions of that type, of these types here, but at other stations there could be, depending on what the station is. I would suggest, at least for starting, specializing in, say, for my examples, security missions, pick a type of mission, doesn't really matter what. Some of them pay out better, but it really depends on your preference. Specialize in one type of mission and get that up to a high enough level that you can make a good amount of ISK. And this is probably your quickest way to actually make a bunch of ISK, because if you're trying to spread out your sort of diversify your specialization, then it totally defeats the purpose of specializing. And you're also going to spend a hell of a lot more time playing and not making as much ISK, because you're not going to be getting up your levels in your missions. So it is possible to not specialize and instead diversify, but I wouldn't recommend it because you're not going to make ISK very fast. And let's be honest, the majority of players' goals in this game, at least early on, are to make ISK so that they can get the better gear and keep, stepping up the hierarchy, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so specialize in a type of mission. Doesn't really matter what. Some, as I said, some pay out more than others, but the faster you can get to level 4 missions, the more ISK you're going to be making quickly. And number 13, the last bit of advice I have is stay in Highsec for a while. This is kind of a basic little thing. This is actually the beta star map. It looks fucking sexy as hell, I'm not gonna lie. But basically, as you can see, the blue dots all the way down to these yellow ones, anything 0.5 and above is considered Highsec. Highsec has the, if someone just randomly kills you that is not from an opposing faction or corp or whatever the hell you want to call it, then Concord, you might die, but Concord will come and kill them. They'll be sort of flagged, and Concord, the police force within Highsec, will go and try to kill them, and usually they succeed because Concord is OP as fuck. But basically, as long as you're in a 0.5 and above, and if someone kills you, Concord will come to your aid and completely wreck them. If you go out of Highsec, then you have no Concord on your side, and anyone can just come and kill you and get away with it for the most part. Their security status might go up, but they're mostly unhindered, and unfortunately they can just kill you. You can do a lot in Highsec. Sure, it might not be quite as fun as low-sec and null-sec, but Highsec does allow you to do things fairly safely. You can go through your missions. Level 4 missions are available in Highsec, as far as I know. And you can still make a bunch of ISK in Highsec. I mean, this majority of the trading points, like the really big ones like Jita, are in Highsec. So if you do need to go somewhere to sell off a bunch of stuff, you can stay in Highsec, and you don't really have to leave Highsec to go and make your money. Although there are a lot of bigger opportunities outside of Highsec, staying in Highsec for a new player is really a must. So that's my personal opinion. I've tried going outside of Highsec and it did not end well, to be honest. I left Highsec briefly to see if I could find some higher value ores, and I lost a venture because I went to an asteroid field and there were a bunch of more powerful AI came in there, and I'm just thinking, oh, I'll just speed tank and use my drones and I'll kill them. Nope, they wrecked my drones and immediately poof, just wiped me away. And I've also been gate camped out in low sec. I've never actually been to null sec, but I've been gate camped in low sec. So that there are a lot of threats out in low sec. So stay in Highsec for new players. I don't know the exact point at which you know, like, I am okay to go in low sec. You kind of got to decide that for yourself. And I suppose if you join a corporation that operates in low sec or null sec, then I suppose heading out to them would make a good idea, or be a good idea once you're ready, like you have enough money to back up your losses, and you know you can actually survive out there. And then I'd suppose that's a good idea, but you gotta make that decision yourself. I just wouldn't do it very early on until you have a good foothold financially and with your ship or whatever you're using, or your ships or your stuff. But that's my opinion. So yeah. Okay guys, thanks for watching. This has been my guide for the EVE Online, the things they don't tell you, because there are a lot of them that most tutorials don't cover. Hopefully I've been helpful to you. I might make future editions of this depending on if I learn things that I didn't learn from tutorials and I think are really important to cover, but these are the top 13 that I really think are super important, and the ones that have helped me the most. So go ahead and leave a comment if you think there's something I left out. Let me know if I helped you. Hopefully I did. And yeah, okay guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the universe of EVE, hopefully. Okay, good luck. See you guys next time.